Another short video covering the build or rebuild of my Rails Dynamometer car. Today we're going to look at weathering the sides. This is the model as it currently stands. It's been painted, it's had transfers applied, it's had lining done. The roof has been weathered. The state of the vehicle in 1938 was very heavily weathered, so the roof likewise has had its bits weathered there, as has the underframe. So that's the current state of play on the various parts. However, the nice shiny bright sides really don't look right given the weathering for the rest of the vehicle, so I intend to do something about it during this session. Having done all the painting and the lining and applied the transfers, the model has been given a couple of coats of clear floor polish. This helps to act as a seal against any subsequent use of thinners. So for the purposes of what we're going to do today, the tools are fairly simple. Let's just move that out of the way. I've got a piece of tin foil to mix the pin wash on. I've got a small tub of clean white spirit, a reasonably small brush, a tube of oil paint, in this case it's lamp black, and I'm not certain yet whether I'm going to use them or not, but I've also got some cotton buds. So the first thing is to mix the pin wash up, and for that, as I say, I use the tin foil. It's fairly easy to see what you're doing with it. So let's open up the tube of oil paint. Now, a pin wash is a lot of thinners to very little pigment, so I really do not need much to come out of this tube. That's too much on the brushes. Make it smaller, and that's probably going to be ample, might even be too much, but we'll see. Right, so the first thing to do then is to keep applying thinner until we end up with a nice runny transparent or translucent wash. As you can see, it's getting thinner because it's on the tin foil. You can see it better. Still a lot of pigment in there. Let's thin it down more and more. Now I usually start applying this with too much pigment and find I have to thin it down still further. It's a little bit trial and error. That looks reasonably thin. Let's make sure it's well stirred in. I suspect that's still going to be a bit on the thick side. And there I've got a nice thin-ish mix. So let's just clean the brush off before going any further. Put a little tissue. Right, let's reposition the things on the board so I can actually work on the item a bit closer to you. Let's move that up there. And here is the dynamometer car. Okay, so I'm going to pick up some of the fluid, and I'm going to start by touching it and the door vent, like so, in the door opening, like so. I'm going to do it around the panel. Around the drop light. Just to give the impression of a little bit of build up of dirt. Do a little bit around the window. Although the roof and underframe of the dynamometer car in general service was quite dirty, the sides didn't seem to be as dirty as one might expect them to be. So I don't know whether they got cleaned more often or not. So I'm just putting some oil pin wash. Don't be frightened to do it over the transfers if you want to turn the transfers down. put it around the panel there. It just gives that slightly worn look to the vehicle. Like so. I'll bring it a bit nearer. Hopefully the camera will focus on it and you can see it's giving it a slightly grubby appearance. I'll just let that go off a little bit, but while I'm doing that I might as well do a few more panels. I'm not doing the top of the panel, it's just the bottom of the recesses. And the door handle, around the grab rails, and very important just as much around the hinges, because they seem to show up on the photographs far more, and around the door stops. How's that looking? A bit around the drop light, so. Drop light like that. Around that hinge, and that hinge, and just do a little bit around the top panel there. And hopefully you can see it's starting to look a little grubbier. So the other thing a pin wash does, in addition to effectively weathering a panelled coach, it can be used to highlight detail, or if you like, recessed detail. So for example, if I take the roof, it's had an overall spray of grot colour. If I just pick up some of the pin wash now and just daub it in the, given the fact it's a dark colour to start with, this just increases the apparent depth of the torpedo vents. So this is now a visual thing rather than a weathering thing. Likewise, sections of the underframe can be picked out and emphasised rivets. I'll try and give an example of that a little bit later. So there I've picked out the visible side of the ventilators with the pin wash. Right, once the oil's had a chance to dry a little bit, one of the things you can do if you want is give it a sort of cleaned impression. So for example, where I painted over the transfers, I've got a cotton wool bud and I'm just going to drift it across, just clean up some of the excess from some of the panels. The shape of the cotton wool bud will leave some behind, and there we have there's the original, nice and pristine, and there's the bit on the side there where it's slightly dirtier, and I think in keeping with the amount of weathering that's on the vehicle. So I will press on and do the rest of it and come back in a minute. Right, I've finished the body, and I'll just show you what it looks like. As you can see, it looks a bit grubby, which is what we'd want. If I bring it a bit closer, you might be able to make out the details. Such. And, 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 I've also done the roof the clerestory I should say. That's all been touched in as well, and of course the ends have also been dirtied. Actually that looks worse than it is because of the lighting. But there's the other side there, similarly treated. So the coach has now looks a little bit more wear worn, and hopefully should blend in nicely with the underframe and everything else. Again, the end is in shadow. Let's try and move it away a bit further. So as I say, it's not quite so grubby with the naked eye than it appears on the camera here.